Tanking is one of those concepts hero shooters copied from RPGs, mostly MMOs. And transitioning a concept from genre to a genre is not a simple task, as gameplay differences will render some concepts functioning in original environment completely obsolete post-translation, and things that were originally the acceptable normality of the original experience might become so frustrating that they triple the demand for new keyboards. Especially when original role is already a frustration goulash in eyes of majority of RPG and MMO players, which in a shooter can be only worse. If you like my content, consider supporting me through Patreon or channel memberships so I can focus on making more of it instead of earning the living through Blitz archaeology aka grave robbing. Anyway, let's proceed. The point of a tank as a part of a team is to draw attention towards themselves, and subsequently away from useful teammates called supports and useless teammates called DPS. This has an unfortunate side effect of making the aforementioned tank be hit with much more random bullshit of extreme variety than players he's protecting. After all, the point of his existence is drawing attention, and who draws attention receives it. In most games that put players in PvE environment that requires active tanking to solve the encounters, tank can be an immortal brick who eats bullets and shits galvanized square pipe, as AI for the mobs, or health bar with attitude known as a raid boss won't quit the game over getting their experience ruined by a tank being impossible to kill without severe mistake on his part. PvP environments, however, have to deal with the fact that walking embodiments of skill issue also have feelings and some semblance of independent thought, meaning they don't have to shoot just a big tank in front of them, but can knock into the cranium of whoever's visible from behind him. These environments require tanks to be able to perform their role, yet still be killable by normal means, which forces the developers to walk a thin line of self-flagellation design, which is a compromise between tanks being oppressive enough to fulfill their function against the enemy that doesn't have scripted aggro, but not oppressive enough to make enemies' experience miserable, and also a compromise between making tanks tanky enough to let them frontline sufficiently well to once again fulfill their role in a team, but not tanky enough to make the enemy's experience miserable. This creates a balance conundrum, which makes it likely that tank experience will suffer as a result of optimizing the resources to be just in right spot, not to cause misery all around them. Unless of course you're Blizzard Entertainment, and balance to maximize misery in every facet of your game, but let's ignore that clumsy fall from grace disguised as a game. Better Watch makes several steps in the right direction to ensure the protein side of its cast gets to have some semblance of fun. Firstly, most of Rival's tank cast takes inspiration from Bruisers, not actual tanks. Bruisers is a general category of tanks that are allowed to actually kill people, not just soak up damage. Most off-tanks in general are Bruisers, as you may realize that has a significant overlap with dive tanks, as they have to be able to kill the backline as well in order to fulfill their function. General distinction is that dive tanks are defined by their mobility, letting them get directly into the backline, where Bruisers don't necessarily have to be defined by their mobility. All dive tanks are Bruisers, but not all Bruisers are dive tanks. Similarly, controllers such as PP and Groot do classify as Bruisers so long they control space by threatening the enemy with damage. Bruisers are generally more fun to play than Baron von Shieldhold we're unfortunately so accustomed to, on top of which they fulfill their function as a tank in a shooter environment better than a human wall by threatening people instead of just standing in the way of fire. NetEase understands this to the point that every shield hero in Rivals is nudged towards that direction, with Strange getting AoE burst, Magneto getting reliable kill combo, and Captain America getting buffs next patch. Also, their shields have limited health values, with exception of Magneto's, whose shield is on a timer. All this in effort to pull tanks away from standing still holding a shield up gameplay towards actively engaging in a slap fight with the enemy team in front of them. Tanks spend less time holding shields up, and DPS spend less time shooting the shields. Everyone wins. Or so do I thought. Upon prolonged exposure to tank experience in Rivals, I noticed tanks in this game can be divided into two categories. those who have personal shields, and those who have to suffer. All by the courtesy of both meta supports having ridiculously long CC, while quite large chunk of DPS roster have displacement, interrupts, their own stance, or straight up
Have you ever been kidnapped before?
No.
and with how many DPS can shred current highest health tank in seconds just by themselves, let alone with any help, getting stunned in front of entire enemy team is a recipe for an instant trip back to spawn. And well, someone's bloody job is to draw attention to themselves on purpose. And what draws more attention than, let's say, a few of the most in-your-face ultimates in the game, all of which can be halted or completely stopped with CC. Sure, in terms of specific examples, like the Eye of Agamotto, it is understandable why this is interruptible. In other cases, however, I have strong doubts, to put it lightly. Ulting as a Hulk against a team with ample CC is comparable to testing Nutcracker on yours, because only thing you get from this experience is pain. Which begs the question: why is Punisher in his ult completely CC immune, while PP, Thor, Magneto, Murica and Hulk aren't? How does a grumpy man with a gun, or even better, Mentos K-pop, have more unflinching fortitude than actual robot, Norse electric grid with a six-pack, Gramps who ended dinosaurs, Lockhart Martin PR mascot and Shrek she tells you not to worry about? If Punisher and Luna deserve to be CC immune in their ults, so do all the tanks, except Strange. And if they doesn't, why are they? If someone deserves CC countermeasures, it's the people who need them the most. Large bodies on the front line, literally drawing attention and CC with it away from other people, including the people who actually got the CC immunity that they barely even make use out of in the first place due to being ranged backline fighters. And if you think full-on damage immunity would make, let's say, the Hulk melee beef schnitzel that can only hurt you if your screen looks like this, too powerful, I'll once again point at Punisher and ask you how you consider this more deserving to be CC-proof than a rampaging chlorophyll. On top of which, games like Guild Wars 2 already provided ample examples of effects that block specific number of incoming CCs and then disappear, so we don't have to give everyone full-on immunity. With that said, I'm curious what you think. Which characters should have some CC immunity or some form of CC resistance, and why? And before we wrap it up, a big sign of gratitude towards all the generous Patreon supporters continuously considering my dubious quality content worth their money. You're all truly welcome. Crabface out.